this child didn't learn to translate this. So I understand that what language is all about initially is concepts, is not words. And what I noticed is that we teach, the methods of teaching generally, especially in the French system, is about words. This word corresponds to this word, but that's not how it functions.
Right.
It's the concept. So we have to teach concepts in both languages and not just words. And therefore, you permit the child to understand this concept in this language and to understand these other concepts and how this concept is expressed in the other language. And this
When
is
you
how
say concept, what exactly do you mean?
the meaning, what is behind the word. For instance, I can say, I love this. I love this, but you could translate, I love this,
right.
But that doesn't tell you what you love. You know, there is something behind that some methods of teaching doesn't really emphasize. They emphasize the word. It's easier to emphasize the words. So dealing with bilingual people, you know that bilingual person do not deal with just words.
Right.
They deal with the concept. And you teach, therefore, not you teach, the person will get accustomed of saying a certain amount of things, a certain, even a certain area of language in this particular language, and then another area of language, they will feel more comfortable in the other language.
Right.
And those are all the aspects that we, as bilingual person, we experience. And of course, as I continue to say, that if you are a bilingual, if you are a unilingual teacher, you cannot teach properly a bilingual child.
Right. So you said your daughter's first language was French. Did you then choose for her to go to a French school or an English school?
Well, at that stage, in the French school, they were using for the method of reading, they changed from syllabic reading to global reading. In other words, they would make a child, not go into the details of how to pronounce each syllable, but they will give them a sentence and they will teach them to read the sentence without going into the syllable reading. And I noticed, because one of my kids went through that system, I noticed that during the first year, you don't have a lot of sentences. You may have one sentence, and the child would come home and he would read that one sentence, and that's it. He knows how to read. But when he gets into grade 2 now in the French, I noticed that at school, the teacher only read, it was a longer text, and the teacher only was able to practice just 1 or 2 sentences. And when I asked him to continue reading the rest, he couldn't.
Wow.
That was grade 2. So I understood that there was a serious problem with the global reading, global reading. You read globally, you understand, and therefore the child remembers very fast. So the child would read only what he practiced at school. Okay? So I say, no, that's not. So I had to, for my child to read, because if you don't read, I don't think you can go very far in your education.
Reading is fundamental.
I had to teach him with tears the syllable method. I had to pick back up, go back in my little books, and teach them to read syllables so that he can be independent. If nobody don't help him to read this first sentence, he can go ahead and read the other. And that was the major problem in the French educational system at that time, which they created what is called illettrism. In other words, you go to school, but you still come out and you don't know how to read because of that method. And I noticed that in the school on the Dutch side, they didn't change from the syllable method. So I say it wouldn't make sense for me to send my daughter to the French school, where I will have to, at home when she reaches, I'll have to continue, I have to teach her how to read French, and then it wouldn't be fair to give a child the burden to teach her how to read English. So I said it's better that I should shift her to the English school. She went to the English school and she learned syllable reading. So it was easy for her to read the French syllable,
Right.
in the syllable method.
While studying in Holland, I came across a lot of Dutch people. You know, you have north, south, different areas, and they all have their dialects, and they
course.
all speak and they understand
Of
each other,
course.
and they are able to make that switch when they speak someone, they call it algemeen beschaafd Nederlands, you know, where everyone is standard Dutch. And I'm saying, when will we ever understand that in St. Martin, that it's okay for us to speak our dialect?
Definitely.
And be able to switch. I do it, and I
Definitely.
realize that my kids are able to do it very well because they go to an American school. And
Absolutely.
in
It's a
school, they
language.
speak one way, and from the time I pick them up, I feel like, hey, so I think it's an advantage we have actually being on this island
yes,
for languages.
it's and there is a tendency of teachers that come from mainland France or come from Guadeloupe. There is a tendency to tell them, oh, stop speaking English, stop speaking that language,
Yes.
it's not good, and so on. And it creates a blockage in that child, and that child, since he doesn't know, I mean, he's new in life, and the teacher telling him don't speak his language, and that's the language he speaks at home, it's kind of break the child into a lack of self-esteem
Yes, yes.
and what he is and how he represents himself in this world, and that has created a lot of failure. It's not the language that is the failure, it's the approach of the teacher to the child's
Yes,
language.
right.
Any language, any medium you are speaking is a language, okay? And I say we have to speak our St. Martin English with St. Martin people, but if you're speaking with an American or
Of course, who would
you
not
speak
understand our dialect,
standard
they speak
language,
standard,
and
right.
that's what I did. I taught standard English, but I allow my children, I never told them what they were speaking, speak your English at home. When you come, you speak standard English
Right.
to broaden your knowledge of things, and that is what it is. So, so some students that only see me at school, and for other circumstances, they would hear me speak St. Martin English, and they would say, "Teacher, you can speak." Of course, and I want you to do the same. You know, so this is it. The value, and I always hear people, and I think it's a big mistake that the families, the younger families, are doing in St. Martin, to strictly speak French to their children at home in order to make them learn better. It's not the learning, it's the approach.
Yes.
What stops a child from learning is not a language, is how you view his language.
Yes, of
and
course.
when you create that psychological blockage, the child don't learn anything, neither maths nor anything. And that has been our failure in the system. And children, St. Martin children should know their language, St. Martin English. You could speak both. You could speak standard English, you could speak French to your child. That is not a problem. Language is not a barrier for anyone. What is a barrier is adults' perception of you, and when you degrade, when you devalue the perception of a child of himself, there is where you create the problem, not the language.
Ms. Jeffrey, thank you so much. I mean, our time is gone, so you know we have to stop right here. But I'm going to invite you back on another program to discuss your books, your other niche. So thanks once again for being here on A Better Place and for having brought us a wealth of information concerning education on the French side and being an educator of the English language. Thank you so much.
Thank you also.
And to you, the viewing audience, I would like to thank you for having been a part of A Better Place. Stay tuned for our upcoming programs. I am your host, Angelique Remou.